Good evening, everybody. There we go. No, let's turn it off. Good evening, everybody. How are you? I hope you all enjoyed yesterday's reading. Oh, my hair's all funny again. I hope you all enjoyed yesterday's reading with Saman. Hi, Tim. Hi, Anita. Hi, anybody else who's joined us already. Tonight, I will be reading also, like Saman did last night, and I believe I did on Saturday, 2 nights, because the first night is very, very short. And so I hope you enjoy. It's an absolute pleasure having you with me this evening. I wanted to let you know that Saman and I had a big, long meeting today, and we have decided that whether lockdowns continue or not, we are going to try and get into the Guinness Book of Records and read all 1001 Arabian Nights. And I do believe that means we've got something like 947 nights to go. So, and we've worked it out, it's going to take us 4.5 years. So I hope you'll stay with us during that time. And excuse me one moment, I'm just going to go and close the door where a light is on and it's annoying me. And my dog was snoring rather loudly. I'm actually all on my own this evening, so it's going to be very quiet. It's wonderfully quiet in the house. So, good evening, everybody. And without further ado, I will begin with the 54th night, of 1001 Arabian Nights. Welcome. My name is Joanna Godwin Seidl. I am a director, producer, and actress, and I run Vienna Theatre Project for those of you who don't know. Okay, so here we go. Just check the sound is right up on this. There you see. Okay, I hope you're sitting comfortably, and let us begin. Now, when it was the 54th night, Shahrazad said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the fireman exclaimed, O Allah, I beseech thee of thy knowledge of hidden things, that thou make this young man's life the work of my hands." And he ceased not to nurse him for 3 days, giving him to drink of sherbet of sugar, and willow flowers, water, and rose water, and doing him all manner of service and kindness, till health began to return to his body, and Zau al-Makan opened his eyes. Presently came in the fireman, and, seeing him sitting up and showing signs of amendment, said to him, "What is now thy state, O my son?" "Praise be to Allah," replied Zau al-Makan. "I am well and like to recover, if such be the will of Allah Almighty of this time." The stoker praised the Lord of all for this, and, wending fast to the market, bought 10 chickens, which he carried to his wife, and said, "Kill 2 of these for him every day, one at the dawn of day, and the other at the fall of day." So she rose and killed a fowl, and brought it to him boiled, and fed him with the flesh, and made him drink its broth. When he had done eating, she fetched hot water, and he washed his hands, and lay back upon the pillow, whereupon she covered him up with the coverlet, and he slept till the time of the mid-afternoon prayer. Then she arose and killed another fowl and boiled it, after which she cut it up and bringing it to Zau al-Makan said, "Eat, O my son." While he was eating, behold, her husband entered, and seeing her feed him, sat down at his head and said to him, "How is it with thee now, O my son?" "Thanks be to Allah for recovery," he replied. "May the Almighty requite thee for thy kindness to me." At this, the fireman rejoiced, and going out, bought sherbet of violets and rose water, and made him drink it. Now, the stoker used to work at the hammam all day for a wage of 5 dirhams, whereof he spent every day for Zau al-Makan 1 dirham upon sugar and sherbet of rose water and willow flower water, and another dirham for fowls. And he ceased not to entreat him thus kindly during a whole month, till the traces of illness ceased from him, and he was once more sound and whole. Thereupon the fireman and his wife rejoiced and asked him, "O my son, wilt thou go with me to the bath?" Whereto he answered, "Yes." So the stoker went to the bazaar and fetched a donkey boy, and he mounted Zau al-Makan on the ass and supported him in the saddle till they came to the bath. Then he made him sit down and seated the donkey boy in the furnace room, and went forth to the market and bought lote leaves and lupin flower, with which he returned to the bath and said to Zau al-Makan, "O my master, in Allah's name walk in, and I will wash thy body." So they entered the inner room of the bath, and the fireman took to rubbing Zau al-Makan's legs and began to wash his body with the leaves and meal, when there came to them a bathman, whom the bathkeeper had sent to Zau al-Makan, and he, seeing the stoker washing and rubbing him, said, "This is doing injury to the keeper's rights." Replied the fireman, "The master overwhelms us with his favours." Then the bathman proceeded to shave Zau al-Makan's head, after which he and the stoker washed themselves and returned to the house, where he had clad Zau al-Makan in a shirt of fine stuff and a robe of his own, and gave him a handsome turban and girdle and a light kerchief which he wound about his neck. Meanwhile, the fireman's wife had killed and cooked 2 chickens. So as soon as Zau al-Makan entered and seated himself on the carpet, the husband rose and, dissolving sugar in willow flower water, made him drink of it. Then he brought the food tray, and cutting up in the chickens, fed him with the flesh and gave him the broth to drink till he was satisfied. And when he washed his hands and prayed for Allah for recovery, and said to the fireman, "Thou art he whom the Almighty vouchsafed to me and made the cause of my cure." "Leave this talk," replied the other, "and tell us the cause of thy coming to this city and whence thou art. Thy face showeth signs of gentle breeding." "Tell me first, how camest thou to fall in with me?" said Zau al-Makan. "And after I will tell thee my story." Rejoined the fireman, "As for that, I found thee lying on the rubbish heap by the door of the firehouse as I went to my work near the morning, and knew not what had thrown thee there. So I carried thee home with me, and this is all my tale." Quoth Zau al-Makan, "Glory to him who quickeneth the bones though they be rotten. Indeed, O my brother, thou hast not done good save to one worthy of it, and thou shalt presently gather its fruitage. And he added, But where am I now? Thou art in the city of Jerusalem, replied the stoker. Whereupon Zau al-Makan called to his mind his strangerhood, and remembered his separation from his sister, and wept. Then he discovered his secret to the fireman, and told him his story, and began repeating, It's love, they bore me further than my force would go, and for them made me suffer resurrection throe. Oh, have compassion cruel, on this soul of mine, which, since ye fared, is pitied by each envious foe. Nor grudge the tender mercy of one passing glance, my case to lighten, easing this excess of woe. Quoth I, Heart, bear this loss in patience. And patience cried, Take heed, no patience in such plight I'm wont to show. Then he redoubled his weeping, and the fireman said to him, Weep not, but rather praise Allah for safety and recovery. Asked Zau al-Makan, How far is it hence to Damascus? Answered the other, 6 days' journey. Then quoth Zau al-Makan, Wilt thou send me thither? O my lord, quoth the stoker, how can I allow thee to go alone, and thou a youth, and a stranger to boot? If thou would journey to Damascus, I am one who will go with thee, and if my wife listen too, and obey me and accompany me, I will take up my abode there, and for it no light matter to part with thee. Then said he to his wife, Wilt thou travel with me to Damascus of Syria, or wilt thou abide here, while I lead this my lord thither and return to thee? For he is bent upon going to Damascus of Syria, and by Allah, it is hard for me to part with him, and I fear for him from highwaymen. Replied she, I will go with you both. And he rejoined, Praise be to Allah for accord, and we have said the last word. Then he rose, and selling his own goods and his wife's gear. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. So hang on 2 seconds, folks, because we are going to continue with the 50th night. Now, when it was the 50th night, Shahrazad said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the fireman and his wife agreed with Zau al-Makan to travel with him to Damascus wards. Then the stoker sold his goods and his wife's gear, and bought a camel, and hired an ass for Zau al-Makan, and they set out, and ceased not wayfaring for 6 days, till they reached Damascus. And they arrived there towards eventide, when the fireman went forth, and as was his wont, bought some meat and drink. They had dwelt but 5 days in Damascus, when his wife sickened, and, after a short illness, was translated to the mercy of Almighty Allah. Her death was a heavy matter to Zau al-Makan, for he was grown used to her, and as she attended him assiduously, and the fireman grieved for her with excessive grief. Presently, the prince turned to the stoker, and finding him mourning, said to him, "Grieve not, for at this gate we must all go in." Replied he, "Allah make weal thy lot, O my son. Surely he will compensate us with favours and cause our mourning to cease. What sayest thou, O my son, about our walking abroad to view Damascus and cheer thy spirits?" Replied Zau al-Makan, "Thy will is mine." So the fireman bade him. So the fireman arose and placed his hand in that of Zau al-Makan, and the two walked on till they came to the stables of the viceroy of Damascus, where they found camels laden with chests and carpets and brocaded stuffs, and horses ready saddled, and Bactrian dromedaries, while Mamelukes and slaves and folk in hubbub were running to and fro. Quoth Zau al-Makan, "I wonder to whom belong all these chattels and camels and stuffs." So he asked one of the eunuchs, "Whither is this dispatching?" And he answered, "These are presents sent by the Emir of Damascus to King Omar bin al-Nu'man with the tribute of Syria." Now, when Zau al-Makan heard his father's name, his eyes brimmed over with tears, and he began repeating, "O ye, gone from the gaze of these lidded eyes, ye whose sight in my spirit shall ever dwell, your charms are gone, but this heart of me hath no sweet, and no pleasures its sour dispel. If Allah's grace make us meet again, in long-drawn love tale my love I'll tell." And when he had ended his verse, he wept, and the fireman said to him, "O my son, we hardly believed that thy health had returned, so take heart and do not weep, for our fear a relapse for thee." And he ceased not comforting and cheering him, while Zau al-Makan sighed and moaned over his strangerhood and separation from his sister and his family, and tears streamed from his eyes, and he recited these couplets. "Get thee provaunt in this world ere thou wend upon thy way, and know how surely death descends thy life lot to waylay. All thy worldly goods of pride, and the painfullest repine, all thy worldly life is vexing of thy soul in vain display. Say, is not worldly wone like a wanderer's place of rest, where at night he knocks his camels and moves off at dawn of day?" And he continued to weep and wailed over his separation, whilst the fireman also bewept the loss of his wife, yet ceased not to comfort Zau al-Makan till morning dawned. When the sun rose, he said to him, "Meseemeth thou yearnest for thy native land?" "Yes," replied Zau al-Makan, "and I can no longer tarry here, so I will connect thee to Allah's care and set out with these folk and journey with them little by little till I come to my motherland." Said the stoker, "And I with thee, for all of a truth I cannot bear to part with thee. I have done thee kindly service, and I mean to complete it by tending thee on thy travel." At this, Zau al-Makan rejoiced and said, Allah abundantly requite thee for me, and was pleased with the idea of their travelling together. The fireman at once went forth and bought another ass, selling the camel, and laid in his provaunt, and said to Zau al-Makan, This is for thee to ride by the way, and when thou art weary of riding, thou canst dismount and walk. Said Zau al-Makan, May Allah bless thee and aid me to requite thee, for verily thou hast dealt with me most lovingly than one with his my brother. Then he waited till it was dark night, when he laid the provisions and baggage on that ass and set forth upon their journey. This much befell Zau al-Makan and the fireman. But as regards his sister, Nuzhat al-Zaman, when she left her brother in the Khan, where they abode, and wrapped in the old camlet, went out to seek a service with someone, that she might earn wherewithal to buy him the roast meat he longed for, she fared on, weeping, and knowing not whither to go, whilst his mind was occupied with thoughts of her brother, and of her family, and of her native land. So she implored Allah Almighty to do away with these calamities from them, and began versifying, Dark falls the night, and passion comes sore pains to gar me dree, and pine upstairs these ceaseless pangs which work thy tormentry, and cease not separation's flames my victuals to consume, and drives me on destruction way, this sorrow's ecstasy, and longing breeds me restlessness, desire forever fires, and tears to all proclaim what I would keep in secrecy. No cunning shift is known to me, a meeting to secure, that I may quit this sickly state, may cure my malady. The love which blazeth in my heart is fed with fancy fuel. The lover from its hell of fire must bear hell's agony. O thou who blamest me for all befell me, 'tis enough. Patient, I bear whatever wrote the reed of doom for me. For love, I swear I'll never be consoled, no, never more. I swear the oath of lover's own slave, who know no perjury. O night, to chronicles of love the news of me declare, that sleep hath fed mine eyelids, of thy knowledge witness bear. Then she walked on, and turning right and left as she went, when behold, there espied her an old Badawi, who had come into the town from the desert with wild Arabs, other 5. The old man took note of her and saw that she was lovely, but she had nothing on her head save a piece of camlet, and marvelling at her beauty, he said to himself, This charmer dazzleth men's wits, but she is in squalid condition, and whether she be of the people of this city or be a stranger, I needs must have her. So he followed her, little by little, till he met her face to face, and stopped the way before her in a narrow lane, and called out to her, asking her case, and said, Tell me, O my little daughter, art thou a free woman or a slave? When she heard this, she said to him, By thy life, do not add to my sorrows. Quoth he, Allah hath blessed me with 6 daughters, of whom 5 died, and only one is left, me, the youngest of all, and I came to ask thee, if thou be of folk of this city or a stranger, that I might take thee and carry thee to her, to bear her company, so as to divert her from pining for her sisters. If thou have no kith or kin, I will make thee as one of them, and thou and she shall be my 2 children. Nuzhat al-Zaman bowed her head in bashfulness when she heard what he said, and communed with herself. Happily, I must trust myself to this old man. Then she said to him, O nuncle, I am a maiden of the Arabs, and a stranger, and I have a sick brother. But I will go with thee to thy daughter on one condition, which is that I may spend only the day with her, and at night may return to my brother. If thou strikest this bargain, I will fare with thee. For I am a stranger, and I was high in the honour among my tribe, and I woke one morning to find myself vile and abject. I came with my brother from the land of Al-Hijaz, and I fear lest he know not where I am. When the Badawi heard this, he said to himself, By Allah, I have got my desire. Then he turned to her and replied, There shall be none dearer, but none dearer to me than thou. I wish thee only to bear my daughter company by day, and thou shalt go to thy brother at earliest nightfall, or, if thou wilt, bring him over to dwell with us. And the Badawi ceased not to console her heart and coax her till she trusted him and agreed to serve him. Then he walked on before her, and when she followed him, he winked to his men to go in advance and harness the dromedaries, and load them with their packs, and place upon them water and provisions, ready for setting out as soon as he should come up with the camels. Now, this Badawi was a base-born churl, a highway thief, and a traitor to the friend he held most lief, a rogue in grain, past masters of plots and chicane. He had no daughter and no son, and was only passing through the town when, by the decree of the decreer, he fell in with this unhappy one. And he ceased not to hold her in converse on the highway, till they came to without the city of Jerusalem. And then, when outside, he joined his companions, and found they had made ready for the dromedaries. Then the Badawi mounted a camel, having seated Nuzhat al-Zaman behind him, and they rode on all night. Then she knew that the Badawi's proposal was a snare, and that he had tricked her, and she continued weeping and crying out the whole night long, while they journeyed on, making for the mountains in fear any should see them. Now when it was near dawn, they dismounted from their dromedaries, and the Badawi came up to Nuzhat al-Zaman and said to her, O city strumpet, what is this weeping? By Allah, and thou hold not thy peace, I will beat thee to death. O thou town filth. When she heard this, she loathed life and longed for death. So she turned to him and said, O accursed old man, O grey beard of hell, how have I trusted thee, and thou hast played me false, and thou now wouldst torture me? When he heard her reply, he cried out, O lazy baggage, dost thou dare to bandy words with me? And he stood up to her and beat her with a whip, saying, And thou hold not thy peace, I will kill thee. So she was silent a while. Then she called to mind her brother and the happy estate she had been in, and she shed tears secretly. Next day, she turned to the Badawi and said to him, How couldst thou play me this trick and lure me into this bold and stony mountains? And what is thy design with me? When he heard her words, he hardened his heart and said to her, O lazy baggage of ill omen and insolent, wilt thou bandy words with me? And he took the whip, and he came down with it, and on her back, till she fell silent and faint. Then she bowed down over his feet and kissed them. And he left beating her and began reveling her and said, By the rights of my bonnet, if I see or hear thee weeping, I will cut out thy tongue and stuff it in thy quaint, O thou filthy city filth. And so she was silent and made him no reply, for the beating pained her, but sat down with her arms around her knees and bowing her head upon her collar, began to look into her case and her abasement after her lot of high honour and the beating she had endured. And she called to mind her brother and his sickness and forlorn condition, and how they were both strangers in a far country, which drave her tears down her cheeks, and she wept silently and began repeating, Time hath for his wont to upraise and debase, nor is lasting condition for human race. In this world each thing have appointed turn, nor may man transgress his determined place. How long these perils and woes are woe, for life all woeful in parlous case. Allah bless not the days which have laid me low, I the world with disgrace after so much grace. My wishes baffled, my hopes cast down, and distance forbids me to greet his face. O thou who pass of that dear one's dower, say for me, these tears shall flow evermore. When she finished her verses, the Badawi came up to her, and taking compassion on her, bespoke her kindly and wiped away her tears. Then he gave her a barley scone and said, I love not one who answereth at times when I am in the wrath. So henceforth, give me no more of these impertinent words, and I will sell thee to a good man like myself, who will do well with thee, even as I have done. Yes, whatso thou doest is right, answered she. And when the night was longsome upon her, and hunger burnt her, she ate very little of that barley bread. In the middle of the night, the Badawi gave orders for departure. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. And so ended the 55th night, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm just going to add a little music, I think, if I can. There we go. So, as usual, it was an absolute pleasure to read for all of you. I hope you had a wonderful day today. In Vienna, for those of you who know, we were able to enjoy the sunshine and bit cloudy and overcast, but otherwise it was a lovely day. Wherever you are around the world, I hope you are staying safe and you are well and you are looking after yourselves. Tomorrow, Saman is back reading and we will see each other again. Tomorrow's Thursday. We will see each other again on Friday. Take care, everybody, and I wish you all an absolutely lovely evening. Thank you very much for the likes. And as I said, tomorrow, Saman, I will see you on Friday. Take care. Many salams. Good evening.